There are stories that connect us to ourselves and to each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. Now, exclusively on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, your hosts, AJ and Natalie.
Hello, 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 Wanders. Welcome.
It's Wednesday.
I just got butterflies. I'm like, ooh, why does it feel like we haven't been here in so long yet? We were just here last week.
It's true, but
I got all excited. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do this thing.
It's like when we get to meet friends,
Get to hang out with our homies.
learn new stuff.
So good.
It is so
good. Hello, Wanders. Welcome, welcome. We are so excited to be here with you tonight. We have a great show lined up.
I'm excited.
I mean, I hate to brag, but why did I say hate? I never say hate.
I don't know.
I don't
Channeling
like
someone else.
I must be, because I rarely say that. When I do, I don't even mean it. But I don't want to brag, but I'm going to brag.
Yeah, do it.
We have some great guests. Like tonight is no exception. So I say we have a great guest lined up tonight as if it's a surprise.
It's so true.
But hey, surprise, we have some great guests lined up, or a guest lined up tonight. Wow. AJ needs to do some grounding. All of a sudden I'm like,
Oh, that's the butterflies. The butterflies, took you off on flight.
ooh, let's burn some sage or something.
Oh, yeah. I was driving here. I was driving to the studio and I was like, oh, I can't. It's like October. That means that I've been doing soul wanderings with you for all these months. I can't believe it's like
It's October. The veil is the thinnest in October.
Oh, so they were mentioning this yesterday in the grief group. 2 or 3 people talking about the shadows, like seeing shadows in their houses. And they're like, I don't know if that's a thing, or if it's just October, or if it's really a thing.
I think October has a lot to do with it, but also I think energies are shifting and changing at a dramatic rate right now. And with that being said, there's a lot of things taking place that aren't always out in our vision.
Yes, I know. I've definitely, the uptick in what I can see out of my peripheral, or it's definitely had an uptick in this last year. I was just like, things are definitely active differently. I was listening to a little podcast today, and one of his points was having a discipline, having a personal discipline, and having personal responsibility, which is responsibility for yourself, like that. Necessary, the ability to take care of yourself. Wise words.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, create it.
Now is the time. Past time, but no time is better than now.
Just ground if you need to. It's like, ooh, I'm off.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a thing on repeat, the grounding. It's Wednesday, and I'm like, where did Monday and Tuesday go?
Right.
Like, I was just waking up Monday morning, and then all of a sudden it's Wednesday, and I'm like, what? Huh? What just took place there? I have no idea, but here we are. And thank goodness we are.
Yeah.
So hello, Wanderers. Welcome. I see you piling in. Thank you. We love our Wanderers. If you're lurking in the background, tonight would be a good night to say hello. We're hanging out on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Facebook, Rumble, and at live.kgradb.com. So go hang out in one of the chat rooms. They're good places to be. You can ask questions. You can meet other Wanderers. You can support the station and our show. Like, comment, share. All the things.
All the things.
Visit soulwanderings.com to learn more about Natalie and myself, and link to all of our social media from there. We're on there, kind of. I mean, once a week at least.
Yeah.
I have a commitment to do better with social. I
You
say that
do.
all of the time, and I do real well for a moment. And then I'm like, this is boring. But it's just because I'm doing all the other things. So
There's a lot of things going on in your life.
yeah, I mean, everyone has a lot of things going on.
It's true.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Last week was Vibe's 7th birthday. For those of you who don't know, Vibes is a metaphysical, new age, spiritual retail shop and healing center.
Biggest thing is the healing center.
Yes.
We do big work sometimes.
The
People can come
retail
in and do
shop
big
is what
work.
keeps us open. So that's important.
It maintains the space that I can meet with
Yeah.
my people.
Exactly.
Do the work that I do.
It was a great week. It was just so awesome. I can't believe I opened that place 7 years ago. I don't know where the time has gone, but boy, have I grown. It has forced me into some growth. So good.
Yeah, see, you get these directions from a higher level, and then you go about doing it in life, and you think it's about making money, but no, it's about the growth. It's affecting the people.
That's so funny. I love when people say, I must make a lot of money. And it must be so awesome owning my own shop. There's truth to the second part.
Awesomeness.
Making a lot of money is not what is happening. But I am abundant in way more ways than money could provide. So the universe always takes care of me.
Oh, I can tell you that it's what I've seen and my personal experience, I've also grown, like doing what I've been doing there, the
Heck yeah.
the classes that I teach and the clients that I get to interact with, and just being in that space.
It's kind of forced. Sometimes gently and sometimes not so much. Either way, it's perfect.
It is perfect.
It's all just beautiful.
So the birthday celebration, I wasn't there for all of it, but
so
birthday.
Yeah, Friday and Saturday were popping. It was so much fun.
Yay.
I gave away a lot of product, and some of it was from Vibes. Some of it was from other vendors that share our space, because we have some other people there. And I decided to work open to close every day so I could interact with people and just thank them. I love that so much. It was a good time.
Yes, you got to see people because people came in that you hadn't seen for a while.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good.
You deserve to be celebrated.
Well, it wasn't me that was celebrated.
Perseverance.
But it was pretty freaking awesome. And I'm so grateful that I've been given the opportunity with some amazing people to open the space up and be there. Not just me, but have the space be there. The team I have, and you're included in that, is just, they're amazing.
Aww.
We have good people in our space. So.
We do have good people.
How was your week?
Oh, my week was good. I have had the opportunity. I've put a few miles on. I've been in the car for lots of hours through this last week and through some amazingly beautiful country. When you drive in the Rocky Mountains or the Rocky Mountain area, which I did. Last week I drove through Colorado.
This time of year.
And even today I drove up through Utah. We have a canyon that goes up towards Logan, which is a town up north. And that Sardine Canyon's known for its colors. And it is true. Lots of people pulled off of the road today, taking pictures of these big, these mountain, just blended with colors. And on the road to Colorado, the yellows were amazing with all the aspens in change color mode. And it's just like, that beauty that just takes your breath away.
So good. That's how it was for me last weekend when I drove through Monty. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know.
We are so blessed to live in the beautiful state that we live in.
Yeah. And it's really pretty amazing to be in the West and drive for miles and miles and miles. And there are some pretty remote places
Mhm.
when that we drove through. This cute little town in Colorado that was like, oh, it would be lovely river runs through that big valley. And it's like, that would be a nice place to live in that place. So that was fun. It's good for my heart to just be able to just drive. I actually like road trips. We stayed in this cutest little motel in Boulder. I did learn that Boulder's an extremely expensive city to live in.
Isn't
Most people
it
live
kind of
outside of Boulder.
Yeah.
I think
It's like
kind
Park
of,
City.
yeah, or maybe Salt
Vail.
Lake-ish.
Yeah.
It did have a Salt Lake sort of vibe. But so much of Colorado, at least in that area, is very high altitude.
Mhm.
There's a lot of high altitude places in Colorado. Spent a lot of times, went very high. One of the highways that I was on drove up by the timberline. So look up at the peak and have this little like you just knew. It's amazing how the body knows that it's high. Like it's at like that there's almost the sky touch the sky kind of thing feeling. And it was really amazing to
I
look
love that.
up at the tip of the mountain and you realize that that's like, I mean, it was probably going on 11,000 feet. So it was pretty, that tip of the mountain, and we were almost there. Beautiful country, fun, really, really nice travels. I had an incident, and so this is part I want to give out this wisdom because
and Natalie Nugget is coming.
Was a little challenged myself. So we were in Boulder and we were driving through and it was dark, and of course navigating by GPS. I didn't know, so we're just navigating through there, and Boulder is a university town, and on the road it was going through part of the university, and all of a sudden someone stopped in front of me. They didn't get over into the turn lane. I thought there was a turn lane, but they stopped pretty short in front of me to turn left, and so I had to stop short. And there were two cars behind me that I was like, oh no, they're not going to stop. But they did.
Terrifying.
But my heart is like, oh. So I'm breathing, and then once we get to the place, and I'm just breathing through. My partner in crime that was with me, he said, what's wrong? And I said, they almost hit me. That's just like anxious, it's like, and then this little voice in my mind said, almost did not. Don't act like an accident happened. Don't bring that energy. Don't put any more energy into that. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't happen.
So, and I felt a shift in energy because I just could feel this, like, if there's a magnetic sort of point of attraction, I certainly do not want to attract a second chance for
Amen.
a negative thing.
Amen.
So I was like, yep. Plus it reminded
you were being looked out for.
It was. There was some tires squealing on one of them, but they both, the one behind me and the one to the side. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I just imagine road tripping and have an accident would not be fun. So
no, it would not be fun, Natalie.
So my wisdom is, if something almost happens but doesn't, don't carry the energy as if it did happen. Like, lean much more into the fact that didn't happen.
Very good point.
Can breathe through the energy. I had to like breathe out because that leaves you a little shaky. But left me a little shaky. But that was the only little sort of breathtaking. I mean, other than breathtaking,
other than the view.
The view. Oh, the view. I feel so blessed to be able to just travel through this country that we live in and like enjoy the time. And
I love that.
I know.
It's so good.
How about you?
My week?
Your week.
Well, so like, I'm trying to think. I went to a concert last night, which makes my heart happy because I love live music. It's one of my favorite things in the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was metal and rock, and I'm a diehard metalhead rocker, whatever you want to call me. That's me, and I'm okay with that. It's really funny though, because the people who know what kind of music I listen to, and they're like, "Wait, what?" because I act like, oh, love and I don't act love and light. I am love and light, but I'm also like, you know what I mean? And
You wanna get
that
your
hurt my
medal on.
throat because I was screaming last night. But yeah, it's just a nice break every once in a while.
Oh,
The last few years, I've gone to a lot of concerts. This year, not so much. So it just felt good to get out of routine and just go scream. Yeah, rager. I'm a rager. And let's see. I should say I didn't have, but I tried to have a really amazing Monday. It was still super fun,
Right.
but I collected a couple of my employees. I'm like, let's have an experience together. And we did Magic Mushroom Monday, Create Day. So we just got all of our crafts out and sensory things and gummy mushrooms. It's a thing.
It's a thing?
Yeah. And so I'm
Wow.
like, hey, we're all going to take these gummies and we're all going to do this experiment. And we're going to go talk to whoever and see whatever and do whatever. Right. So we went in very intentional and got out cards and saged and burned all this medicine and did all this good intention setting. And then we went into it and we waited and we waited. Freaking gummies did not work, but we had a great time. We laughed a lot. And as you know, the girls who work for me are hilarious.
They are hilarious.
They're such good girls. And then a really close friend of mine was there. So it's just been playtime the last few days, but work and play. It's been a nice balance.
That is a nice thing.
Yeah, it was very good.
I saw one of the ladies' pictures on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, that might be fun to get joined into a creative Monday experience.
Yeah, it's fun. We just need to do it. I mean, I try every Monday, and I shouldn't say need, but I shouldn't say should. See, what's with the words?
Well, I mean, you're just paying attention.
Every
Notice
Monday,
words matter.
every Monday I like to create. It's my day off. It's my only day off. And so after I do like the show stuff in the morning to get ready for the week, I do show stuff in the morning. And then by 11 or so, I'm like, hey, the rest of the day is play. Whatever that looks like, we're just going to play. And it has been so good for me because I'm a creative person anyway, and I wasn't taking enough time to create. And so now I'm creating more, and not just creating to sell stuff, but just creating for the pure joy of creating. So I've done a lot of junk journaling, painting. I did Halloween crafts on Monday. I mean, just goofy stuff. But it's very therapeutic, and we just eat like chips and salsa and tell stories and hang out in our comfies and play good music, and we laughed a lot, and it was just a lot of fun.
It's a fun thing to connect with people that you're doing a lot of work with and you're in the workplace with, but then to get out of the workplace and just connect as people is really good for people that work together.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It was beautiful. Real mushrooms would have been better, but here we are. Maria in chat. Creative Monday is better than Manic Monday. Amen, sister.
Oh, right. Let the other people have Manic Monday. You can have Creative Monday.
I don't want Mondays anymore.
Oh, Manic Mondays?
Any kind of Monday.
Oh.
Like you can just kiss that idea goodbye. Everyone's like, I don't like Mondays. They stress me out. I have this and I have that. And I'm like, years ago, I deleted Monday from my calendar. I did.
One thing I'd have to say.
My Mondays are awesome now.
Listen, if you have a sort of Monday that you're stressed out, then that probably is telling you something.
It's an indication that you're in the wrong place.
Yes.
Even when I was working, Mondays were really happy days for me because I'm like, ooh, fresh new week.
Right.
And I'm a planner girl. I like writing things down in a planner, not a digital anything. And I like making little check boxes and checking things off and organizing by color and, all the things. And it makes me so happy. And so Mondays were just always good days. Like, how can you have a bad Monday?
I don't know. Mondays, I don't. I didn't know. I don't understand that. But I've worked with people that just get like Sunday, they start getting sick.
Yeah. That was my
physically
dad my
ill
whole
for
life. My dad my whole
Oh.
life. Sunday nights, just don't even go near him.
Because he was cranky.
Because he was
and
already in
sick
a,
and-
yeah, no.
Yes, and that just means that you're not in the right place. Really not in the right place.
Yeah.
I worked with a client that went through that. She literally would be physically ill. And finally, she opted out. She did something really brave and quit this job that she thought would be, it's one of these jobs people say was so good. And she's like, it wasn't.
Not for her.
No. And so that's important to do. It's like, pay attention to your life. It's talking to you out loud.
Yes.
Have you ever had your life talk to you out loud? All the time.
Is that what's talking to me out loud? I'm not sure.
I remember times in my life where I'm like, and my life is talking to me out loud. It doesn't talk as loud as it used to have to talk to get my attention. Now it's more subtle.
That's good. My life sometimes is like a bop against the head. I'm like, oh, well, what? Is life happening right now?
I remember when she was doing a group reading and I was participating in this group reading, like that sort of mystical kind of reading. And she's like, what, does the universe have to hit you upside the head with a load of bricks? And I said, yeah, probably. It's had to do that before. I'll hear it then. Then I'll be sure. Yeah. I'll be sure that there's like, message coming through.
Yep.
I prefer a lot more ease and grace these days.
Same. It's easier on the body. The older you get, you're like, please don't do anything that causes any more physical pain.
Right.
My joints hurt, my muscles hurt, my back hurts, my neck hurts, everything hurts. I'm getting arthritis in my fingers. I'm like, no, what is happening?
No.
Age is happening.
These bodies, I know.
So grateful, right?
Right. But there is something about
older, but whew.
Yes, I was noticing with my body, I'm like, it's a little more difficult. I've listened to people throughout my life when they're like, it gets really hard to get up off the floor when you're older. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a thing.
Oh,
I'm
sat down
have to
on
do
the
more squats and like I'm gonna whether I will or not. The awareness is there.
I'm a floor sitter. I love sitting Indian style on the floor. Sunday I did that for like 20 minutes. I could not walk right the rest of the day, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's catching up. Yeah, it's catching up.
Bodies they're
a thing.
We have to work with the vehicle that we're in.
Yes. Just means
whether we like it or not.
I need to move I walk every day, about 2 miles every day, which is nice, but maybe I need to do a little bit more. Anyway, talking about a little bit more.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit more. We have 1 minute before break about our guest.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the Knights Templar?
So I have studied different religions and studied things about the Masons, and my understanding is the Knight Templar kind of run through similar threads, and they're long, and sometimes they've had their orders tried to be wiped out, so they go underground, and it's like one of those it's getting in, you don't get out kind of thing. I just know surface level stuff, and so I'm really excited to hear.
Excited for tonight.
I can't even imagine going into a cave where they had a Templar cave and what would be in there. And
I've heard bits and pieces from like Discovery Channel or History Channel or whatever documentary that I come across, because I always watch a million of them.
Right.
So I hear little bits, and everything's very opinionated, just like everything else that people are discovering or trying to get the answer to, like everything we talk about here on the show. So when this opportunity became available, I was like, yes, we've never talked about this topic.
That's exciting.
And so tonight is going to be really cool. I'm excited. I hope you all are excited. When we get back, we'll be bringing our guest right on. So stay close.
Hey members, The new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hello, welcome back to Soul Wanderings. I'm AJ.
And I am Natalie.
And we're here hanging out with you tonight.
Yes, we are.
We were going to bring our guest on, but she's not here yet. So we're going to hang out for a little bit until she joins us.
Yeah. So I was reading a little bit about the Knights Templar. So they're a military order.
Yes.
Of the Catholic faith.
Right.
So it's interesting to think about that blending of religion and military.
That's what Wikipedia says.
That is what Wikipedia said. Now, beyond that, look beyond that. Everyone can Google it and say, I have a bunch of different books on that. But
there was a show that I watched on the History Channel. Oh, I don't know. Some time ago. I don't have History Channel anymore. So when I used to do the whole cable thing. And I remember they were like a big deal when they were around. Like early, what was it like? Early 1000s, like 900, 1000 time.
Yeah, 1119 is when they were founded.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Do you feel like you've ever had any past lives during that time era or during that?
Probably.
Like around.
Yeah.
Because I have this, I wouldn't call it an obsession. It's not an obsession, but it is this energetic pull towards history of like 800 to like 1300 time frame. I always have these flashbacks of being in a castle.
Oh.
And they're really specific. And there's 2 different ones. And when I've had like even past life regression happen, I've had some things come up that line up with what I feel and see.
Okay.
When I went to Germany and walked through a castle, I was just like, I don't know. It was like sparklers in my soul.
Wow.
I don't know how to explain it. Not like I had been there in that specific castle,
Right.
but just the energy.
Of a castle?
Oh my gosh. They're heavy.
Oh.
The energy is so heavy.
I have not been in a castle because I have not been in Europe, but it would be interesting if I did. I had this vision, that's the best word I could have for it one time, about the vision, I just knew in this vision that I was an archer. I had this vision of like a battlefield out there. And I felt the arrows like behind my back. I had a quiver of arrows strapped over my back, and I felt that energy in my hair, and I could feel my hair blowing, and I was on a hill above this battlefield, and I knew I was an archer.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew that I was good at my job.
Yeah.
And then there's this aspect that's like, oh, because the results of that is death. But I obviously had some military type experiences in my previous life, because that vision was it's really amazing when those moments happen. And that stuff happened when I was going through. So this is a little tag on to the having a sort of discipline. And when I was going through, I went like 3.5, almost 4 years in this program that was a martial arts type of a program. And I wasn't in the full martial arts, but I was doing this. It was called a Wealth of Health program. And I had a lot of powerful experiences doing that regularly every week. That used to be several years ago. That was my Wednesday night thing. It's new Wednesday night thing. But I had lots of profound experiences through that. Moments for meditation and building that energy within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it to do it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that program that you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting comments, Robin Hood.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever done any past life regression, anything?
Years ago, I had a therapist that did a couple of like hypnotherapy sessions, but I haven't found someone that. It's important that a person resonates with me before I have them wander around in my psyche area. That's important.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you know of a good one, then I'd be open to it.
We actually had a guest on the show, Debbie Solaris. She's a galactic historian.
Oh.
And she goes into the Akashic records. So I had 2 readings with her.
Yes.
I had one for myself and then one for my partner that I sat in with. And then we had an experience. And then I reached out to her for a reading because she also does reading. And the reading she gave me about what was going on in our experience was spot on. I don't know if you remember this, but
I remember when you were going through that.
But her reading with my history, she went into like past lives, not just here on Earth, but in other galaxies. So she'll tell you if you're from like where you started, like if it was like Octuria or Vega or Lemuria or whatever that looks like. And there were so many things I was just like, that's interesting. Where does she pull that from? And then there were other things that I was like, whoa, that feels oddly familiar. Like it was creepy. And sorry, I read a comment. Oh, Joe, you're cute. One of our listeners got new AirPods. I would like to do AMSR or ASMR. That would be fun. He got new AirPods, so he said it's almost like that.
Oh.
We should start. Just for Joe. Anyway. So yeah, she was really awesome. If you guys go to debbiesolaris.com, she kind of blew up after she went on Coast to Coast. We got her just before that. And after that, she's been booked. I haven't even been able to get in for a reading, but she does trainings and events and all kinds of things. But I really there's a lot of people out there. I just don't know how real they are. They're just kind of just an opinion or an observation, not a judgment by any means.
No.
But she was pretty incredible. And I just really was blown away by the readings. Definitely. So maybe she could be someone. I've referred her to a lot of people, but maybe she could be someone that you're interested in.
That could be. It would be fascinating to have that experience. I did have a longtime friend of mine who he was interested in like how long him and I had a connection. And however he did it, he went into some meditative sort of space, and it took him back and back and back and back. And I think it was in the 1200s that he said that we had a connection.
That's really cool.
It was really cool. But he said he didn't ever want to do that again because it took a lot out of him.
Yeah.
To do that.
I've always wanted to learn. We've had other guests who tap into the Akashic records, and apparently any of us can do this.
Well, so I had just these moments of like inspiration are the best words I can say for it. And I've been listening to a lot of things, and there's a lot of it's said often that we carry the genetic code in our genes. And this moment of insight said that's the Akashic records is our genetic code. And I was like, oh, that is fascinating how that maybe could be.
Yeah. I'm interested in learning. She does have trainings, and I've been thinking about signing up.
Ooh, let's do it. I could use an interesting training. I mean, besides human design, which I'm training in all the time.
Well, and I want to do more of that also. Yeah. Our guest had a little misunderstanding. So she'll be joining us here really quick, which, yay. I'm glad she'll be joining us.
Oh, yes. Because we can carry on. We keep talking about things.
I mean, yeah, we definitely can do that.
Yes,
but
we can.
Lovely. She's going to be joining us. So
she says we can.
Yeah. Let's do this.
Since you have the introduction for her, tell us all about her.
Our guest tonight is Dr. Kathleen Ball, and she has received groundbreaking discovery in Brazil. Her new book, A Grail Quest, Discovery of a Mysterious Knights Templar Cave in Brazil, and documentary, The Brazilian Templars Mystery, illuminate uncharted chapters of Knights Templar history, challenged traditional narratives, and inspired a new wave of historical research. So tonight, Dr. Kathleen Ball is with us. Let's get to it. Hello, Kathleen.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, so good. I'm so glad you're able to join us. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I got it. I got the email saying it was 6:30, so I guess there was a mix-up, but that's okay.
Yeah, there's a breakdown in different time zones, so you probably just read the first one, which it is 6:30. It just depends on what time zone you're in. Okay. I'm just glad you're able to join us. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We've been looking forward to meeting you and hearing all about your journey and all of your great discoveries and, of course, your new book and documentary.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, the book came out in July. It's a Grail Quest and Discovery of the Knights Templar Cave in Brazil that I discovered in 2015. I actually made the film. We started doing the film in 2018. So it came out in 2020 on Gaia TV, and they have it now for 3 years. So, and then it's going to go on to, it'll continue on going to Netflix and all the other channels. So.
Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting discovering the cave. I had been on the Templars for, I don't know, I studied Leonardo da Vinci. That led me into secret societies. Right about that time, it was about 2006 when the Da Vinci Code movie came out. That was a big hit. And I started doing some back research and finding out what parts of that story were true and what weren't. And, and I started bumping into people that were in France that were familiar with the Mary Magdalene story and all that sort of thing. So 2009, my husband and I were in France, and we happened to go into Dome, France, to go into a grotto. And when we came out, the curator of the museum asked me if I wanted to see where the Templars were held before they were executed. There is a dungeon right there on that land, right, not far from where the museum is. So anyway, he hands me the keys. He walks me over there. He says, "Bring the keys back whenever you're done. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer." So I was like, well, yeah, this is cool. Not often does someone say, "Here's the keys," and then, lets me do what I want. So I got to photograph all the graffiti that was in the dungeon, which was awesome, because if I hadn't done that, fast forward to 2015, I wouldn't have known what this cross was that I saw above this cave. So, my whole life has just been synchronistic. And ever since I had a near-death experience in 1990, it kind of jumpstarted that whole process. And, I just feel like this is all part of my destiny. So.
Excuse me. I love how everything lines up like that. It's like a validation that you're on the right path for you.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when I go out on these, I call it parts of my quest, when I'm traveling, because I've traveled just about all over the world at this point, and on the trail backtracking the Templars and where they've traveled. And I found out that they've literally traveled, from what I can understand, all through North America, South America, into India, into Africa, Ethiopia, into Turkey, and of course, Europe. They were in just about every country in Europe. So I found evidence all throughout Europe and, all over. In Egypt, I found some Templar crosses there that showed that they may have possibly been there. Ethiopia, they were definitely there. And so it's just been a really fascinating path,
Well, first of all, before we carry on, some people may not even know who the Knights Templar are or anything about them.
Right.
So will you give us a brief introduction?
Sure. So the Templars, this is going to be a little different from the historical record, but the Templars actually organized, from what I understand, in Greece in probably around 1040, 1045. From there, they went into Constantinople. And after going into Constantinople, about this time, the church was interested in organizing crusades to go into the Holy Land. So that's how they ended up in the Holy Land. And also, I believe that the core members of the Templars at that time were actually, I think they were going in there specifically because they wanted to get into underground the Temple Mount, into the tunnels, and do some excavation. And I think they were searching for genealogy records. And I mean, everybody thinks there's this Templar treasure. But I personally think that it may actually just be genealogy records and things showing that the bloodline went back, and how far back it went. About 3 years ago, I was doing some research in the Rosicrucian Library in San Jose, and I came upon some research that showed that there was actually an order of knights that was organized in 526 BC by Zerubbabel during the second building of the temple. So I suspect that there may have been some of the same family members from that group that we see again pop up in 1040, and then of course they were accepted by the Pope in 1118. So I just suspect that that's what's going on, because they immediately went. I mean, they immediately, as soon as they arrived in the Holy Land, they immediately went to the Temple Mount. They stayed in the stables. They could have stayed anywhere, but they chose to stay in the stables above the Temple Mount. And I think that's, they immediately began excavating and going after whatever it was that they knew was there.
Interesting. I don't know if you see this comment from one of our listeners here in the chat room. Does Kathleen believe the Holy Grail is actually something tangible?
Yeah, I think it could be a lot of things. For me, it has been the quest itself has been just an amazing experience. It's really, I don't know. It's been my life, and I've met so many wonderful people. I had a healing in Amazon jungle in 2021 as a result of this Grail quest. I had been on anti-rejection meds for almost 6 years for a liver transplant that I had in 2015, and I went in to research how the Templars got from Bahia, which is the coast of Brazil, into central Brazil, because that was like, how did they do that? That's a long way to go. And I got a tip when I was in Portugal that they actually hooked up with the Amazonian tribes, and that they were the ones that actually brought them into central Brazil. And then I found out that there were 5 tribes that come into Alto Paraíso, which is right near the cave, from the Amazon jungle every year. They migrate in every year and have for hundreds of years. So it wasn't a big jump to figure that out, that they did that. So I was invited to interview a Huni Queen chief, who is the Huni Queen tribe in the Amazon jungle in Brazil. And so I had ended up having to go into the Amazon jungle and stay with these people for 10 days with my guide and my translator and my film crew. So anyway, it turned out
so many amazing
what happened. I was invited to participate in one of their ceremonies, which was an ayahuasca ceremony, and I left there never having to take anti-rejection meds ever again. And this is a major miracle. If you know anything about the medical history of transplantation, you're told as soon as you wake up that you can never ever stop taking these anti-rejection medications or you'll die. Well, I'm living proof that you don't have to follow that necessarily. I'm not advocating it, because it was a much longer process than just going to the Amazon jungle. That was just the culmination of a lot of spiritual work that I had done prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to the Holy Grail itself, there's many, many people that believe that there's an actual cup that may hold the blood of Jesus. That's a possibility. However, the Jews did not believe in touching blood of any kind after the deceased had died. They cleaned the body and then buried the person. It was, sacrilegious. It was just you just didn't do that. So I kind of have a hard time believing that they would, there's a lot of people that believe that they actually drained blood or allowed your blood to fall into this cup and saved it. Now, it's entirely possible. Anything's possible. But given the traditions and the rules and laws of Judaism at that time, especially at that time, they were very strict about these things. It doesn't sound like something that would have it doesn't sound like something that would have happened. Now, at the Last Supper, of course, there's rumors that there was that Holy Grail, which could, of course, hold DNA if Jesus actually drank out of it. There may be some detectable DNA that's still available. But again, I just don't know. There's several in Europe that I have, a couple I've seen. And there's some in the UK. I think there's 2 in the UK, and there's one I believe it's in a chapel in Spain. Anyway, they're just absolutely 100% convinced that they have the Holy Grail. I don't know. My gut tells me that I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. That's my personal belief. But if somebody comes up to evidence to the contrary, I'm open. I'm not a closed-minded researcher. I don't have just my agenda and stick with that. I always keep my mind open for evidence that comes up, new evidence that contrary to what I have believed so far to date. And then I'm willing to change my mind. So
I think the best researchers are that way. They're not closed off and they're open to the possibility of anything.
yeah, you really have to be, especially in this day and age, because there's been so much controversy and so much history that's been either intentionally or unintentionally, or whatever the agenda, there's a lot of ideas what that agenda is all about. But the history has been altered. And that we do know. We know that for a fact, because we're turning that established history on its head every time. I mean, this is happening almost monthly. We're discovering ancient sites and things that turn all of that given history that we have been learning in the history books and in our schools and colleges. It's really, helping us know and understand that is not what happened, that scenario of history that, people have been around 5,000 years, all that. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous now. Absolutely ridiculous.
I was having a conversation with some friends just a few days ago about history and how altered it is. Like, do we even know the truth about our history or even a glimpse of it? Because it's just like the game of telephone. Things get manipulated along the way and the truth disappears.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think, some of it's attributed to that. And then, of course, whoever conquers an area, they're the ones that write the books. History is written by the winner, the conquerors that have won. So, we get a lot of misconceptions because of that scenario,
Yeah. Right. It's all open up for an opinion or perception of one person or a couple of people. Well, I think it's really neat that you've had the opportunity to travel all over the world and synchronistically come upon all of these people, places, and history that you do. What a beautiful life.
Yeah, it's actually turned out well. It actually, what happened is when I discovered the cave in 2015, 9 days later, I arrived home. Well, I arrived home before that, but 9 days later, my home burned down. I had been an art professor. I taught art. I taught anatomy and art for the, anatomy for the artist and multimedia. And I was a figurative sculptor, primarily professional artist for 30 years. And this whole situation of finding the cave seemed to pivot a complete metamorphosis, which was a big surprise. Because I got home, this happened. And then about 7 weeks, 6.5, 7 weeks later, I had a liver transplant because I was in the advanced stages. I'd had liver cancer for 4 years. I'd been battling it. And I was finally told that I had tumors that the liver was going to have to come out. I couldn't try to save my liver any longer. So here I am, boom, 2015, my home burns down, all my curriculum, all my artwork, my entire life, everything that I'd had for 6 years just went up in smoke. So that was a big surprise. I had gone to school for 8 years to get that job, and I was working. I think I was done with my doctorate by that point. So my whole life's just switched. So during the time that I was recovering from the transplant from 2015 to about 2017, I decided that I wanted to do something with this discovery. This was a history-changing discovery of a Knights Templar cave in South America. Nobody at that time knew that the Templars had been in South America, let alone Brazil, at that early stage. Because I was stating, because of the markings in the cave were identical to what I saw in Dome, France, from the Templars who had actually carved that into the walls themselves from 1307 to 1314 before they died. The markings in my cave were identical. So, and it was a hand carved cave. It was not machine carved. It was a hand carved cave. So I had to date it when I believed that it was actually carved out, which was sometime between 1290 and 1350. And boy, everything just hit, I backlashed on that one. But I have slowly but surely, just brought forward more and more evidence that that's probably the time that they were over there in Brazil. I've discovered similar crosses in Peniche, Portugal, that were carved in 1099. I've discovered crosses that are identical to the one above the cave in Istanbul during the times that the Templars were there, which had to been around the same time frame, around 1099. And before they went into the Holy Land, before they left for the Crusades. I found similar crosses of course, in Dome, France, and also in Spain. So there's a tremendous amount of evidence now that's pointing towards my theory that the cave was actually dug out and discovered between 1290, sometime between 1290 and 1315. So, and then there's the added surprise to the whole situation that when I went back in 2018, I was informed that the cave was actually a gold mine, which was huge revelation, because all royalty in Europe from about after the Templars lost the last battle in the Holy Land, all the kings were broke. They didn't have any money. Their coffers were empty. I mean, they had spent all this money on these crusades, and this is one of the reasons why King Philip the Fair went after the Templars in 1307, because he was broke. A, he wanted to cancel his debt with the Templars, and B, he wanted to replenish his coffers with everything they owned. So he wanted to take over everything, all their properties, all their money, everything. First he went after the Jews, and he kicked them out of France and confiscated everything they owned, and that wasn't enough. He wanted the Templars' money too. So all thinking about, all the royalty, they were broke. They didn't have any money. But all of a sudden, Portugal starts building ships, they have money. Where's this money coming from? Well, I come to find out that there was actually a naval base that King Dinis, who was the king at that time in Portugal, who was also an affiliate of the Templars. He was very close to the Templars. He actually assisted in the building of a naval base that was built in Peniche, Portugal. And as a result of this naval base, they were, obviously building ships. All this stuff takes money. I think that he had a relationship with the Templars, and I think they may have been going back and forth from Brazil, into Portugal, back and forth for many, many years, bringing gold. And if my new research is accurate, they were actually going into Peru as well and bringing back silver. So it benefited it was a win-win. It benefited the king and it benefited the Templars. And, in terms of the Templars' widespread travel, I think part of the reason they were doing that was looking for somewhere to reestablish themselves, because they could see the writing was on the wall in Europe. Portugal was their last holdout, really. And Scotland was still iffy. England was encroaching on Scotland. They could see that happening. And everybody in Europe at that time was beholden to the Catholic Church. So, and of course, the Catholic Church signed that, that paperwork with King Philip the Fair, deciding that they were heretics. So they could see the writing on the wall. They weren't going to be able to hold out in Portugal much longer. So I do believe that this was one of the reasons that were part of what motivated them to start traveling to North America, South America, possibly India, and other locations.
World. Yeah, unbelievable. The work you're doing is just fascinating and incredible and definitely important. We love history.
Oh, yes.
I love that I'm going to be learning more stuff from you tonight. We need to take a quick break, but when we get back, we'll continue to hear about your adventures, Kathleen.
Okay.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soul Wanderings. I am AJ.
I am Natalie.
And tonight we have our guest, Kathleen Ball. She is amazing so far.
Just like, wow, just listen to you, just spew it all out.
Yeah, there's so much that you've gone through and the experiences that you've had. It's really challenging to condense it into such a short show, right? To talk fast and share a lot. Well, we have about 50 more minutes to spend time with you. So there's plenty of more time to go over your adventures. You were talking.
What would you like to know? What would viewers like to hear about in terms of the Templars in Brazil, or the backstory, or what would you like to know about?
Well, first of all, I want to know more about the markings in the caves that you have found.
Okay.
What did that look like, and were they clear to you? What did they mean?
Well, they're in my book, and most of them are crosses. But what's interesting about them is they're not just crosses. They're a specific type of cross that was used early on, not later on, but early, from like 1040, 1050, 1099, upwards to about 1290, somewhere in there. That's the latest that I've seen this style of cross. And this cross, it has a cross, but the ends have like lines. The top has a line, and you come down, and there's actually a triangular form at the bottom. And you see these also in Peniche, and you see these in Dome, and and other sites that we know for a fact are Templar sites. Now, what these indicated, we don't know. So many of the records were destroyed either by the Templars themselves to keep secret, or they were destroyed by Templar families who held these records for them because of the Inquisition that came into Portugal. Portugal was really I think more important than France, even in terms of a Templar holdout and stronghold, because there was so much there, and they had control of the country, basically. I mean, they owned probably a good third of the property and land and castles. They had owned almost all the castles in Portugal. So, all the research and everything, it was unfortunately very few families held on to any of this stuff in fear of the Inquisition that finally got into Portugal during the 1500s, the 16th century. You see the Inquisition finally breaking down the stronghold in Portugal, and they actually moved into the Convent do Cristo, which is the Convent of Christ in Tomar, Portugal, which was the Templars' primary castle. And they actually moved into that castle. They completely disbanded the Knights of Christ at that point, murdered many of them. Anybody who had anything to do with the Templars at that point in time was murdered as a heretic.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a really, really bad time for the Templars. And like I said, I think that, they went underground, and B, they were also traveling and reestablishing themselves and their DNA in other countries. North America, South America, there's a tremendous amount of evidence that North American native Indians shared Scottish and English blood. So that, from Europe. So we think that they may have just intermingled with some of the Native American tribes when they arrived. And I think the same thing happened in Brazil. I've met several descendants of Templars in Brazil. In fact, interviewed in my first film, The Brazilian Templars Mystery. I have one of the descendants, a Templar descendant that I interview, João Ramos. So I think this is what happened, and I think that it didn't just happen in North and South America, and I think they were very quiet about it, hush-hush about it. I know that when they first discovered Brazil, the continent of South America, they were well aware that it was a huge continent, but when they went back to Brazil, everyone from Brazil was reporting that it was just an island. In fact, they called it the island of Veracruz, which means the new cross, instead of indicating or disclosing that it was a huge continent. So they were definitely hiding. They were definitely hiding locations that they traveled to.
Mm-hmm. Why were they being what was the main purpose of them being so secretive about everything that they were doing?
Well, because they were being hunted down. Now, I found paperwork again. I found this old book manuscript in the Rosicrucian Library. Again, it was very old Masonic manuscript, and chapter after chapter was talking about the Jesuits going into South America, tracking down anyone that they suspected was Templar descendant or and Masons also, and they were murdering them. Mm. So I think that, they were in fear of their lives just because of the fact that they were Templars or descendants of Templars. They were in fear of their lives for a very long time.
What was do you understand what the beef was? I don't know a better language.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of speculation about that, but the only thing that really makes sense is the bloodline.
They just wanted to wipe the bloodline out.
Yeah, because if there was people that were going to come forward and say that they were from the bloodline of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, that would basically say that Jesus wasn't God, which you see what I mean? So that would have turned the Catholic Church up on its head. It would have turned everything. Can you imagine what that would have done back in that time frame, 1500s, 1300s? That would just not have been good for the Catholic Church at all. I think nowadays they're a little more open to things. I know they do not embrace the bloodline theory at all, not above board anyway. But it's still, from what I understand, the descendants that claim to be descendants of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, they're still hush hush about it. They're very quiet. They don't talk about it, and they're, there's rumors that they've been hunted all the way up into present day. So,
what is the connection between the Masonries and the Knights Templar? You brought them up.
Well, I found descendants that are Masons from Templars. A lot of my own family were Templars on my father's side in Scotland, and eventually Masons. So I think that some of the same families may have become Masons. Now, whether there was an actual transition, I really don't know. There's no evidence. Again, there's no evidence. It's unfortunate, but nothing has surfaced at this point. Now, that could change at any time. I recently become privy to a body of research that is being shown to me from a family in Portugal who don't want their name given out, but they're willing to give me a tremendous amount of evidence. And I have someone over there, a friend, who's willing to translate it for me. So it is around. And I believe that this is a time in history when these kind of things, these secrets are being revealed, because we're changing, we're raising consciousness on this planet worldwide. And look at all the archaeological discoveries, God's sake. It used to be 20 years ago, you might hear about one a year. Now you're hearing about something almost monthly, sometimes weekly. Look what's going on in Göbekli Tepe, and Karahan Tepe in the last few weeks. We've just made amazing discoveries over there. So I think that, we're moving towards, I don't know, I'd like to believe that we're moving towards a time of transformation on the planet and as individuals, as human beings, evolutionary jump, whatever you want to call it, but hopefully towards a more harmonious, peaceful people. And, the Templars had this, they had this belief, and it was, it was sacred. It was, they believed that in 700 years, just similar to the Cathars, that they would come back and be recreated and would be stronger than they were even in 1300s. And this certainly is a fact. This has taken place. I was actually present when the Templars reunited globally in Tomar, Portugal in 2019. There was a huge procession, and there was a pact signed by all the Templars globally, Templar organizations globally, that reunited. So this was the first time in over 700 years that this had happened. And their agenda, that's what my next book is about.
Oh my goodness.
Look forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have so many questions, yes. But you brought up how like today's day and age we're raising the consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. So do you believe knowing that this history, or any history for that matter, is important to us in today's age for our spiritual growth or to raise our consciousness?
Yes, I do. I believe that, I believe this has been coming for a long time. And there's been people throughout history that have been pivotal, really important figures that have literally planted seeds to bring this about. Akhenaten and Nefertiti were one, when they completely turned everything, to all the, the whole hierarchy into Amarna, and they introduced one God. My personal belief is that was the time that he was contemporary with Moses. And I think he sent Moses out with the Ark and the Covenant and the staff with his permission. Because, and I think that what they call the Pharaoh's army that came after him, I think that was the priesthood that Akhenaten had left behind, that were pissed off at him and wanted to take control again of everything. And they were the ones that actually chased Moses. It wasn't Akhenaten's men. And there's a lot of other, researchers that are now starting to come on board with that idea. But I think he was one. I mean, all throughout history, with Leonardo da Vinci, with all these people who have introduced ideas into the consciousness that that have continued, had been like a continuum, that introduced and put these ideas into the consciousness that brought us forward to today. Anne Boleyn, of all people. But Anne Boleyn, people look at her and like, oh, she was just one of the wives of Henry VIII that lost her head. But if it hadn't been for Anne Boleyn, we would have never seen, the change in religious structure that we did. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite history stories.
And this all had to do with Henry VIII, being obsessed with Anne Boleyn and her ideas that she put forward to him. And then he turned his back on the Catholic Church, which was huge at that time in history. And then look what happened, We had, Luther and all these other people come in and introduce other religions. And then that's what came to the United States, was not just Catholicism, but all these different religious belief systems and, opening people's minds, but also breaking down the stranglehold that the Catholic Church had. So there's, all throughout history, we've had these people that have just been absolutely so important that, I don't think that, most people really pay too much attention to who they really, who these people were. But here we are, fast forward into this time frame. And we've also had, of course, mystery schools that have been bringing forward the mystical beliefs and the spiritual beliefs all the way from the beginning of time forward to today. And they've passed these beliefs from one group to the next, and, so that they wouldn't be lost and so that they would be available to people today. And I believe that these beliefs are going to be, they're going to be available to the masses, and they already are. I mean, if you look around and talk to people, I mean, everybody's talking about yoga. Everybody's talking about the Vedas. Everybody's talking about the Kali Yuga, the end of the Kali Yuga, moving into the Dwapara Yuga. This was not the case, 20, 30 years ago when I began my research. I didn't even talk about my near-death experience back then.
Oh, yeah. It's a different time for sure.
Now,
even 10 years ago to talk about something like
that. Absolutely. Yeah. So, that was a real taboo, and people looked at you like, what's wrong with you? Now it's more acceptable. And in my near-death experience, I saw a time in history for mankind that we had a much more harmonious, civilization, if you want to call it that. It was sort of it wasn't really as controlled. The administrative and the governmental setup was not the same. It was much different what I saw in my near-death experience. And at first I thought it was heaven. And then later, after coming back from my near-death, I realized there was actually our future, our collective future. Wow. And so, that's part of why I'm dedicated to the Templars and ancient sites and digging up our history for the collective, for everyone to be able to learn. My goal is to inspire and educate, and that's what I've been about for, almost all my life. So I believe that all of this, everything that I contribute, everything everybody else contributes to this collective, implanting these truths into the consciousness for everyone, the closer we're going to get to that ideal of a raised consciousness, a collective, harmonious civilization, whatever you want to call it. But I believe that that's happening, and we're right smack in the birthing. We're right at the birth canal at this point,
Kathleen, how has digging up the past and puzzling together history helped you personally with your spiritual journey?
Well, I was raised in a Unitarian. My father was Unitarian. I was baptized Unitarian, which was a little more open-minded than most, at that back in the 50s and 60s. But I wasn't hearing when I thought I wanted to hear. I wasn't hearing. I was searching from a very young age. I wanted to hear truth, and I wasn't hearing it. And I went to the Catholic churches, and I had a girlfriend who was Jewish, and I went to, synagogue with her, went to the Mormons with, all that stuff. I searched out in my childhood. During my teens, I broadened that to spiritual belief systems. And at that point, I started studying Da Vinci and the Vedas and the Tao and all sorts of other things. And that just continued to lead me into the discovery of spiritual belief systems. And then when I started teaching, on my summer breaks, I would go to these ancient sites, and I started studying them and realizing that there was sacred geometry embedded in these buildings, and sacred geometry in Stonehenge, and all these places. And I had to think that it has to be a message for mankind. It has to be some type of message that we are to wake up to something, that they were trying to convey to us. And I think that, part of it has to do with, my personal belief is that the human species has been around for a very, very long time, hundreds of thousands of years. I don't buy, the historical record about our evolutionary stages. I just don't. I've seen too much evidence that contradicts all that. But anyway, I think at one point in time prior to Atlantis, which was approximately 60,000 years ago, prior to that, I think we had a civilization, Lemuria, which many people do know about. But I think at that point in time, we as individuals, as a collective, we were much more in tune with the universe, with the land. In fact, if you go back in the Egyptian belief systems, the Cometians believed that we had literally 360 senses. So when you looked at a star, you not only saw that it was a star, but you knew everything about that star innately. Same thing with a fish or a mouse or a bird or whatever. You were 100% completely aware of your connection to these things. Intuitively, you understood them because you knew that we were all one. And fast forward to today, I think that we're moving back into that awareness little by little by little. I've talked to so many people in the last 5 years that tell me that they've experienced some sort of telepathic experience that they never did before. Telekinesis, all sorts of things are happening now. I feel like we're waking up to our innate abilities. We're like coming out of our sort of our egg, hatching as spiritual beings and our full potential. And I think that, that's the direction that we're moving in. And it makes me incredibly happy.
Oh, it's definitely needed. I just always wonder how we got here in the first place. If we were much more awake and more conscious way back when, like obviously something's going on now for us to be in this time to have these experiences, right? It's so much bigger than we can even imagine. But so it's just crazy how it's gone backwards and then we're having to wake up again.
Right. But if you take even this concept of what it's
a matter of the evolutionary process. At that point in time, we were not, what I believe, we were not mentally driven. So I know that's really difficult to try to really understand that concept, but we were not mentally driven. In other words, we're not materially driven. We were not mentally driven. We were not into the material plane. But we had to go through that process to develop the mind to its fruition. So
I just still don't get it. I don't know why we went backwards.
We could actually move forward and beyond that, but with that ability as well. You see, so it was necessary. It was a necessary part of our evolutionary process, because I think our evolutionary process goes sort of like a spiral. And we don't all make an evolutionary jump at the same time. We're on that, somewhere in that spiral, and we're moving, upwards At this point, we're moving upwards. If you want to study, look into the Vedas. So the Hindus talk about the Vedas. The Dwarpa is a time when we're moving up back into closer to an enlightened state, where the Kali Yuga is we're sinking into matter. That's their interpretation of this evolutionary process. And the Kali Yuga, we've sunk about as far as we can into matters from my perspective. Mm-hmm. And I don't really want to see any more of it. But, but that was necessary. It was all necessary to develop our soul and our abilities to move forward into this next. We're going to move forward educated and with the mind as sort of a servant. Hopefully we won't be mentally driven anymore. We'll be more intuitively driven, but we'll have the mind, we'll have the ability to use the mind as well. Whereas in the past, I don't think we had that ability. It certainly wasn't what we have today.
I can understand that point of view. What were you going to say, Natalie?
Well, it occurred to me that you're listening to, so you have this power struggle with the Templars, and this is over, centuries of time. And so if you have a power source within this planet that then takes and wipes out the consciousness that the Templars or the bloodline, the consciousness, let's say Jesus brought in a consciousness and it was in the bloodline, and then some power struggle wipes that out, that's why we go dark. So there's part of that goes with these power struggles. And it's really reminiscent to me of what seems to be going on right now.
Yes.
It's immense power struggle.
Absolutely. And we've repeated this numerous times.
Yeah.
During the Dark Ages, the medieval period, we've repeated this. Atlantis versus Lemuria. There was a huge struggle going on at that point in time as well. And it's repeated throughout history. Look what Akhenaten went through, for God's sake. He had one heck of a struggle going on there. Oh. But I think that it's necessary. And my personal belief, I used to tell my students, they start talking, the Dark Ages were so dark and so, people were so ignorant and oppressed, et cetera. Yes, however, it birthed the Renaissance. So I think we need the struggle. Look at when a woman is giving birth to a child. That's not pleasant. That's one of the most excruciating, most painful experiences that anyone can experience during a lifetime. And I think that our evolutionary process, our growth and development is very much like that. It's the same thing. And when we are at the apex of that struggle, like we are right now, polarized like we are right now, that is the most painful, but it's also right before the birth. It also precedes the birth. So it's necessary. It's necessary. And I think that just the fact that we're going through these things, and so many people are struggling financially and they don't have medical insurance, especially over here, all over the world. It's all over. So they've turned to alternate medical back into herbs. There's a whole lot of people now that are alternative medicine and herbal medicine and whatnot, and developing healing abilities. My daughter went to high school with a girl who went to South America and cured herself of brain cancer. I'm hearing more and more and more and more of this. But these things wouldn't be happening if we didn't have the struggle, if we didn't have the oppression, which has caused these things to happen. It's put the pressure on. It's like a pressure cooker. All these abilities are coming out of that. Because of that. It's because of that. So, in my book, I talk about, the story of the Chinese farmer. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the Chinese farmer, one day his horse runs away and the townspeople come and say, oh my God, what a terrible thing. And he says, well, maybe. The following day, the horse comes back with 7 wild horses. And they go, oh my God, you're a rich man. You must be so happy. And he goes, maybe. And the next day, his son tries to break one of the horses and falls and breaks his leg. And the townspeople come again with food and, oh, we're so sorry, your only son, blah, 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 blah. And he says, maybe. So the following day, the conscription officers come to induct his son into the army, and they reject him because he has a broken leg, right? They come back and say, oh, you're the luckiest man on the planet. And he goes, maybe. And I use this story in my book because it really when I started realizing that that was what was going on in my own life, I started looking at struggles from a whole different perspective. Then I started studying history, right? More in depth than what had been taught in school. I really got into my own research in history, and I realized that every time there's been a major development or major shift in history, it's been, preceded by one of these really dark, oppressive time frames. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a necessary part, a necessary process in our development.
They do say that even in like as simple experiences to bigger experiences, that you have like these profound moments after your darkest time. So that makes sense when you explain all of that.
Yeah, and personally, we have the dark night of the soul, which is a perfect, beautiful example of that.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that.
Yeah, God knows I've been through several of those. Just think, that everything is just gone to heck, and you just kind of at the point of you want to give up, and the next morning you wake up and there's, you get a phone call and somebody says, oh, this has happened, and your whole life changes. So the point of that is never give up.
Right.
But, I believe that, if you're willing to step out into your destiny, anyone who's willing to do that is stepping into magic. Immediately it's just having that desire and moving forward with that desire. You start drawing experiences to you and people to you. It's almost like a magnetic process. Mm-hmm. And I have experienced that throughout my entire life, ever since the NDE, ever since I had that. It's been intensified. And I have numerous, spiritual experiences where people have met me, told me they were waiting for me since college. I've had a tremendous amount of spiritual experiences and connections. And I think this is possible for everybody. And this is my message, to everyone. If you're working in, say, a bank or whatever, or a grocery store, and you just feel like your life is not heading anywhere, just step out and start doing something different. Even if you do it on the side to begin with, if you're not willing to let go of that security, that secure job, just find out what it is inside of you that you always love to do, whatever draws you, and just start moving in that direction. If it's writing a book or whatever it is, it's different for everybody. But that is your personal grail quest right there. That is your soul telling you and trying to speak to you and saying, this is the beginning. You have an opportunity now. This is the beginning of your own personal destiny, your own personal grail quest.
That's great advice. Great advice. I know it's a little off topic, but also not, because it's led you to where you are today. But do you want to share with us a little bit about your NDE? It's one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, my NDE was a little different than most people. I didn't commit suicide. I didn't get in a horrible accident. None of that stuff. I just sort of gave up on life. I just felt that it was in 1990, March 11th of 1990, or March 10th, March of 1990. And I sat down and I wrote out my last will and testament. And I asked God, the Creator, to take my life. And I stopped breathing, and my heart stopped. And I went into a mystical experience, which I thought at the time was heaven, because I felt the presence of God. I felt the presence of angelic beings that were guiding me and showing me things and showing me the future. When they showed me the future, it was telepathically conveyed to me that I had a decision to make, and I could either stay there, because while you're having an NDE, past, present, and future is all going on at the same time. So I know that that's a difficult concept for most people to really grasp, but that's what's going on. And so when you think about something, it's like you begin to visualize it. And in that NDE, I saw the future, and I decided at that point in time that I wanted to come back, and I wanted to participate in bringing that about on Earth. And I came back with that commitment. and my whole life completely changed. I mean, absolutely 100%. I stopped smoking. I stopped doing any kind of, drugs. I stopped drinking alcohol. I don't have anything like that in my body at all today, and haven't had for almost 34 years. So it completely transformed my life. I began researching, much more dedicated to research. And I mean, I started studying everything. I read the Bible like 400 times. I was doing deep research into the Old Testament, into Revelations were my two favorite parts of the Bible. I studied the Vedas. I studied quantum physics. I studied nuclear physics. I studied biology. I studied anatomy. I studied all these different things. And they all, worked for me later when I got my PhD in metaphysical sciences. But at the time, I had no goal. I was just compelled to do this. And I was an artist. I was a fine artist. So I was expressing all of my discoveries, spiritual awakenings, whatever, in my artworks. I was a student of Kabbalah I still am, for 34, almost 35 years now. A lot of my artwork, I used the Tree of Life as an understructure, sacred geometry as understructures in my paintings. But anyway, yeah, it was an amazing experience. So when I came back into my body, I couldn't breathe. My heart was not pumping, and I freaked out. I remember feeling really scared. It was like I'm trapped in this body, but it's not working. And I just prayed. It was like, well, please let me be alive. I wanted to be alive more than anything. And prior to that, I had been on a fast track to self-destruct, which was so weird for me, because here now I want to live more than anything. Before that, I didn't really care. Anyway, when I came back into my awareness and I got that first breath, I'll never forget that. I just had this thought that I wanted to completely change my life. I wanted to completely do everything different. And I had a joy about me that I had never had before, unless, maybe when I was very young. Mm-hmm. But I had a joy, a feeling of joy, a feeling of hope, a feeling of faith that I've never lost. It stayed with me all these years. And that's the kernel, in my soul, in my being, that continues to keep me moving forward and believe that we are moving towards something better.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Through all of your traveling and all of your deep dives into history, have you come to anything close? Or like, even for instance, when you were in the jungle and went through an ayahuasca journey, has there been anything close, or were you in a moment where you had seen what was taking place when you had your NDE?
No, it was totally different. The ayahuasca was more union with the universe and the creative forces. I did feel the presence of the creator, but it was very different, because I had an intention when I went into that experience. I went in wanting to heal. I asked to heal my liver, to make it my own. This liver that was implanted, I wanted to make it my own. So that was my primary focus. However, I had been in Brazil in 2013 prior, and I had gone through ayahuasca experiences 3 times, 3 different sessions, healing cancer tumors in my liver. So, and I had accomplished that. I cleansed 7 cancer tumors from my liver at that point in time. But they were not like the NDE at all. They were just, I think, my spiritual path, so that I could believe in the healing possibilities of the body. Because I think the key to any healing is surrender, is 100% surrender. And it's very difficult for any of us with this mind that we have. We're so mentally driven. It's extremely difficult to get into that state of total surrender. That's where I think that things like ayahuasca and some of the other things that, people are using today, need to utilize initially to be able to get into that surrender state.
Mm. Did you have a question, Natalie?
Well, it's fascinating listening to this because, I've talked about, these are all similar things I've heard in all the studies that I'm doing that have to do with the human design. There's all these different threads, and definitely the surrendering of the mind, like this mental driven, I've been studying this other system, and so much of what you're saying is an aspect of this evolution of where you learn to surrender the mind and no, the mind isn't there for making decisions. It's this pressure, and it's a newer aspect to our human race, to our human species, and it's doing its own evolutionary process. But we have this mental framework that is beneficial, but not for us as individuals so much. It becomes a trap or a prison for us. So that's what I was thinking about with what you were talking about. I do wonder if what the Templars did, what was their discipline, and if it gave them, obviously it gave them some leverage different than maybe the typical human that they coexisted with, but they had some special, was it just things had turned on inside of them?
No, they had access to initiation processes that were they were very, very ancient. This could have been part of whatever they found in the Holy Land when they're underneath the Temple Mount as well. I do know also that they had affiliations with what were considered, the Saracens, the Sufis at that point in time. And I think that they traded information, and the Templars had an inner core of members, and I don't know how big this core was, and I don't know how many countries, that this involved. But I do know they had an inner core. We have found in initiation, chalices, and we have found a great deal of evidence to show that they actually did have initiations. When you go into Tomar, there's a chamber that's off the Chirola, which is this really, it's very elaborate area. But just off of that, you go through a door and go down into this, looks like almost like a basement. And my immediate hit when I went into that space was it was used for initiation. And I believe wholeheartedly that the Templars, Freddie Silva talks about this, and that they had initiation processes that they kept secret. And I think that, they came from much, much earlier mystical belief systems, all the way back to Egypt and further on beyond that. Like I said, I believe that there's been organizations throughout history that have brought these mystical practices forward into the current day, and the Templars were one of them.
Mm.
So the initiation would provide like a certain body of knowledge or turn something on inside of them, something along those lines.
What happens is you surrender to yourself. It's a real interesting experience. But you literally surrender to God, to everything. You surrender. You become a servant. I consider myself a worker bee. I tell her, I'm just a worker bee. I'm just doing what I'm directed, because I literally feel directed. When I'm out on the road, I literally feel that I am directed. My intuition now has become so honed in that, I don't second guess. I never second guess my intuition at this point, because it always has worked for me. And I think that this is the same process that they went through. We have schools today. There's Rosicrucians. There's all sorts of different, there's Templars, there's current Templars, there's Masons, and there's other, mystical belief systems. And I believe that they're all practicing these initiatory practices, and to some degree or another. How successful people are depends on, your 100% commitment or not. Your willingness to surrender. And not a lot of people are. If it means like I lost my home. And I believe that that was initiation by fire. The universe wanted to redirect me. You are not going to be a teacher anymore. You're going to be a teacher on a broader scale. You're going to be a teacher in a different way. You are not going to work at this college anymore. We just, everything you owned was burned. You can't. You don't even have the supplies if you wanted to. You see, so, it was really bizarre. I painted that experience. I literally painted myself in the middle of the flames in this fire because I had a vision of that the night of the fire after we had left, where I had access to all of the elements. Everything was turned back into its subatomic state, and I had access to those elements, and I could turn them into anything I wanted.
Wow.
I could recreate a future, anything I wanted. So that's why, a year or so after I had the transplant, I asked myself, what do you want to do more than anything in the world? I want to travel, I want to educate and inspire. It came back to the same three things, but in a different way, with a different path. And that's when things really started, picking up.
What a powerful manifester you are.
It's like alchemy.
Right. And you get validated from those experiences with all of the synchronicities that you experience.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so incredible.
Yes. Watch out what you ask for.
Be very detailed in what you ask for.
I tell people, when I ask for that death to happen, I mean, you got to really be careful what you ask for. And if you really mean it, chances are you're going to get it.
Right.
We only have about 10 more minutes to share with you.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about a Grail Quest?
Yeah. So, the Grail Quest, like I said, it's the backstory, my story of everything that I went through prior to the discovery of the cave, what led me to the cave. I talk about my research. I talk about my childhood. My father was my first mentor. Leonardo da Vinci was another mentor, obviously not in person, but I connected with him. Maya Angelou was another very powerful force in my life. I studied everything, studied her life. She was an amazing woman who overcame a tremendous amount of challenges in her life. And, I've modeled myself after these people and that was the beginning of my quest. It was developing my inner strength and my courage to be able to go out, because I travel alone most of the time. I mean, I'll join a research group if it's something that, I'm interested in, but primarily I travel alone. I go to South America alone. I go to these different places by myself, which, my husband sometimes gets a little freaked out, but he's been there when these really wild spiritual things have happened. Like when I was in France and this nun came up to us, she opened the cathedral door and she came up to me, embraced me. And she said, "Oh, Madame, I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you ever since college. For when you came, I could speak with you," and huddled me off into her studio and gives me this map and tells me I must promise her that I will go. It was a predestined meeting, and my husband now, he just accepts all these things that happen because they happen all the time.
How can you deny them?
Yeah. And where I ended up in St. Baume, where Mary Magdalene had lived in intercessory prayer the remainder of the last 12 to 17 years of her life in intercessory prayer. And I had a tremendous mystical experience, spiritual experience in that place. It was just incredibly powerful experience. But I believe it was the beginning of the awakening of the feminine, because this was back in 2009. And a lot of people were doing energy work with the Magdalene energy at that point, bringing it into the consciousness. And I think that was part of that. What I was doing there was part of that.
Oh, it's so incredible. Go ahead.
Yes, it's what I really love is that when you surrender to your path, And then you didn't really have to. So you say you travel alone, but you didn't. You're always guided, and
Yeah, I love to travel alone because that way I can do what I want and I don't have to do a lot of explaining. I don't have to say, well, I got to go do this. And people look at me like you're out of your mind. Well, I need to go into the Amazon jungle. And my husband was just like, oh, seriously? When I went in to interview the Kalunga people, who are the runaway slaves from the Spanish and Portuguese ships that landed in Brazil. A lot of people in town told me, some people don't come back from that. They just disappear. And I said, well, they invited me in, so I'm going, and whatever happens, happens. And I ended up having to go through a series, 3 different interviews before I got to speak to their elders, and then I was a 4th experience before I got allowed into their actual tribal community and got to actually talk with the rest of their elders and whatnot. And they gave me some very, important information. They had actually lived in these Templar caves when they ran away in the 1500s from the slave ships, which was interesting. Wow. So it helps me date. And also because so many people said, oh, they weren't discovered till Cabral came over and blah, blah, blah from Portugal. And I'm like, no, I really don't believe this. And if these people came in the early 1500s and these caves were pre-existing, that just throws that right out the door because these people told me that the caves were there. They stayed in these caves and they picked up anything, bits of gold, whatever they could to survive because they were hiding from the intended masters, the people that had intended to enslave them. So, and it was interesting though that they went to the area of Valparaíso, which is where my cave is. My cave is in the middle, interestingly enough, of Valparaíso, Saint George, which means Saint George, Cabo Conche, and Moino. And so it's like in the middle of this area that is sacred mountains to the Amazon tribes. And here the Kalunga end up drawn to this place. It's out in the middle of nowhere, but it's now protected by the country of Brazil. It's called the Chapada National Reserves. So it's protected because there's waterfalls all over. There's, I don't know, probably 40, 50 of these sacred waterfalls and mountains that had been worshipped by the indigenous culture there for thousands of years. I mean, I found petroglyphs in that area that were just unbelievable. I knew they had to be at least somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 years old. They were very similar to Native Americans, North American petroglyphs that I had seen, interestingly enough.
That's crazy.
Oh, everything's connected.
It is. It's so interconnected. There's so many workings going on that we just cannot see. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. How can listeners find your book, Kathleen?
Pardon?
How can they find your book?
Oh, my book's available on Amazon.com. Or if you do connect with, you want a signed author's copy, you can actually look at my Facebook page, either the Templars in Brazil or Kathleen Ball, and PM me a message, and I will actually mail you a signed author's copy. So those are 2 ways. You can also go to the Disclosure Fest in Las Vegas, Nevada, November 10th, 11th, or 12th, and I will be signing books there and also doing a lecture all 3 days. I'll be there doing lectures.
Oh, I was going to say, and I wanted you to bring that up, your events. I see that you're with Jimmy. It looks like
so you can get tickets for that at disclosurefest.org, and you can get tickets to either be there or you can do the online version of the Disclosure Fest. But it's going to be a magnificent conference, absolutely magnificent conference.
It sounds like it would be really cool.
It's right.
A global human origin science and technology expo.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be one of the biggest things I think that's ever happened. We've got over 50 speakers, and there is so much going on at that conference. I'm really excited about going.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to hear about your journeys, your experiences, all of the above. We've really enjoyed having you. I wish we had more time. I'm sure we could hear so much more about your life and all of the amazing things that you're accomplishing in it. But unfortunately, we have to wrap.
Well,
So true.
Thank
But
you so
thank you
much
for
for having
sharing
me. I appreciate it. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed the show, and I enjoyed getting to meet both of you.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we'll see each other again.
Absolutely, Kathleen. Thank you so very much for your time. And to
Okay.
all of you listeners, thank you all for being here with us tonight. It's been such a pleasure. And we'll see you all next week. Until then, be good to yourself and be good to each other. Good night.
Have a
All
good
right,
one.
good night.